So just to liberate it a bit, so the exact amount of movement, same movement, but now I don't need to worry. Here, I don't need to worry, I just need to worry about not hitting them. I'm going to do the motion in the air, and my cross check wants to hit and come back here. So I just, as I do this, don't lean forward into the mitt, sink, and start it from the hip, like this. So I'm learning to glance off, and it chambers here. When we talk about chambering and checking, quand tu donnes beaucoup de puissance, right, when you give a lot of power, ça va glisser ou ça va juste passer. It's either going to go through or glance off. It's very rare that you get stuck, especially on something like a head. It just ding, and you might skip up, but you'll carry through because it's dense. So it's got to come through, and sometimes it may hit your body, but it's hitting it in a place that doesn't matter. Your shoulder is durable. I also like to stomp on the cut, right? But I just want to see that I have that kind of power. So later, if I'm using it, for example, as a stance infiltration, it's fantastic. Or if I'm using it to maximize or amplify the power of the cut, right? Any kind of motion here, it's fantastic. So same motion. Pivot from the hips, pad is up, and I go right through nice and simple, easy. So, I promise you, cognitively, not too complicated. Muscularly, it can be more complicated. So take your time. Because if you try to do it too fast, right, I'm going to show you 2 or 3 steps depending on where you are. If you rush it, you're not going to get it. It's going to be complicated. So we all have this. There's no problem on the cut. The pivot is getting better. And we have this idea of cross-checking. Right? Another reason we cross-check is just to monitor our own hand. Because if we get in the habit of fighting close and having the hand out, oftentimes, if you're very good and you're used to it, because you have a lot of practice getting your hand out of the way, you'll have really respected lanes. Your hands will know where to go. But we develop that skill by learning how to cut and bring it back. If my hand is low and I bring it back, it will always intersect the path. So at the beginning, we learn how to lane each hand. Each hand has its own path. And then after a while, sometimes you'll be close, and just like when you work with a gun, your hand will either be on it or back. We try to avoid having it out and getting it crossed with the line of fire. So it's about having the intelligence to know where each is in its own orbit without crossing. So now what we're doing is we're doing the same motion for a cut, but now we're going to focus on the reverse action as the harder of the 2 hits. So if I think in, sometimes I may not even touch him. I might just check this so that I'm covered on this side. For example, if I cut low into his body, I want to have that up so he can't come back. But then maybe now I'm in a position where he might want to take my back. So I reverse that really hard to hack him back and come in. Later, we will look at cutting with a double-edged karambit, where my hand doesn't change, cut, cut. And we will look later at reversing it, have a double cut. For now, we don't want that complexity. I want to go through and back. My hand doesn't change. Through and back. But we're going to put the spank on the back. So through and back. Through and back. That's all I want to see. I can check lightly on the back of the mitt if I wish. I take my time in between. Don't rush it. Through and back. Just to get used to not staying in that position. There are other alternatives as well with slipping and things like that, but people will oftentimes keep the blade there, and as they slip, because they have boxing actions, they kind of get sloppy. And so with knife, it's very important that we have clean lanes with everything. Everything has its own path. There's a nice cut, and that wants to come back to my body. Doesn't have to be anything crazy hard. Wrist bone is enough. I'm going to lightly tap. If I think of hitting density and coming back, that's enough against the neck or the face. Or that's unpleasant. That's all I need to see. Bang. 1, 2. For the return, whatever my starting position is, that's where I'm coming back. 1, 2. 1, 2. I don't want to come back unstable, overly open and bent in the front. So it's not, it's 1, 2. 1, 2. And back, right? So he's up, and you're coming back. 1 and 2. That's all I want to see. As slowly as you need to do it.